Good afternoon, everyone. If you're watching with us live or if you're watching this later, we're happy to have you in our webinar series. Today, I'm interviewing Charmaine Solomon, who is the founder of My Possibilities in Plano, and we're going to talk today about transition planning for teens and for young adults, and it starts much sooner, and I think Charmaine will tell us about that. But any of you who are parents with children with disabilities, you're faced with the question about, what do I do to prepare my child for when I'm gone? And everybody, all parents, no matter if you have typically developing children or children with different abilities, you want to make sure that they can be as independent as it is possible for them to be and ensure that success. So My Possibilities is a transition program here in the area that has a lot of great success and a lot of exciting programs. And so I'm glad to have Charmaine on with us today. Thank you, Charmaine.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's exciting to be here today. My favorite topic.
I know. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why it's your favorite topic.
Sure. My name is Charmaine Solomon. I'm actually a therapist by profession. I'm also a mother of an adult with special needs. My son is now 33 years old, and really my son was really the brainchild for what was going to become My Possibilities. And so transition was definitely my motivation for getting My Possibilities started.
And how was he your brainchild?
Well, basically, of course, I woke up way too late. I only woke up when Carl was about 21 years old, when we had his last odd meeting. Mm-hmm. And they said, "Gosh, Charmaine, what are you going to do with Carl?" And I was like, "I have no idea what I'm going to do with Carl." And I said, "Well, what can I do?" And they were like, "Oh, I don't know." And so we went backwards and forwards with, I don't know. And really that launched me into doing research and having a look around at what was available. And after doing that, I was like, okay, this is really not going to work for my child. I wanted something that was more, more continuing education that would continue to grow us. I mean, we're all lifelong learners. Right. I would apply to my son, right?
Right. And we are. I mean, and most of us, our kids that are, when I have two kids that are in college, so they turned 18 and we were shoving them out the nest to go off to college until COVID-19 hit and we pulled them back in. Right. But we all want our kids to continue their education and be successful as they can be, and to be as self-sufficient as they can be. But the reality for a lot of our families, your clients as well as mine, is their children are, the independence can become a challenge. So we need to give them some skills for that. And is that what My Possibilities does?
Yes, it's so interesting. It starts a lot earlier than My Possibilities. I think our natural instinct as parents, for sure, is to protect these young, what we perceive to be vulnerable adults, and we don't really equip them for life. And so it's really a mistake. We don't hold them accountable for their actions. We don't encourage them to be as independent as possible, and it really is a mistake. And so My Possibilities works to make them much more independent, but we only start at age 18. The youngest that we take is 18. So 18 years, that's a lot of time to be thinking about independence.
Right. About how many clients do you serve currently at My Possibilities?
On any given week, 650 people go through our building in a week. Now, not everybody comes full time. Some people are working, and they come on the days that they're not working. So, and some people are really working on the campus. They're working somewhat on the campus, and then they're going to classes.
Kind of describe the setup for us a little bit about My Possibilities, and then I'll ask you about some of the different innovative programs you have.
Well, the campus was designed specifically to look like a continuing education college. We wanted a place of dignity. We wanted a place that these adults could say, I'm going to college. Now, our college program is longer than most. Our fundamental belief is that anybody can learn. It may just take a longer time to learn, but we are convinced that anybody can learn to become independent and go work. And so that's what the college looks like. It's a beautiful campus. We were about to break ground on building number 2, and the COVID hit us, but it'll still go ahead, but it'll just be delayed. And so the idea is that you sign up for classes exactly the same way you would do at college. You get every 6 to 8 weeks, you get a portfolio of classes that you can sign up pretty much like you do a course catalog at a college. And then you pick the subjects based on your interests. So for example, if your focus is going to work, then you'll pick a high concentration of work classes. If you want to become an artist, then you pick, courses that are really focused on art. So it really is a very person-centered approach, but you sign up for your classes every 14 weeks.
Now, so you have art classes. I believe y'all have drama and theater, some performing arts. Is that correct?
Drama, music, art, photography, digital art. So that's in the creative side. And then on the continuing education side, of course, everything to do with work-related tasks. And then we also have independence. If your focus is going to live independently away from your parents, then we're going to help you prepare for that. And what does that mean? That's cooking, it's cleaning, that's scheduling your time, it's all the social interaction, volunteering, community service, all that kind of stuff.
And what about the work-related task, that model? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So in specific building number 2, so what we do is you can start at Jobs 101, which is really just the introduction to what work looks like, and then go right up to job placement. We have a whole job placement team, and we also allow you to go on an internship and experience new things. So for example, my son, if you had to ask him, hey, what job would you like to do? He'll tell you that he wants to wash dishes. And I was like, you hate washing dishes. You wouldn't want to do that as a job. But his frame of reference was so empty about what it is he could potentially do. But once he was able to be exposed to different jobs, he was able to make a good choice and say, this is what I really want to do.
And do you have employers that you currently work with?
Yes, we have a lot of employees. We have academies. So for example, for some of the younger people that are still in school, we work with a lot of really big companies on academies, getting people set up to go and experience what it really looks like in a corporate business. So we have a lot of people that we work with.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you think when kids either coming into your program or wanting to enter your program, what are some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that they have to overcome in order to enter a transition program such as yours?
Yeah, there's probably about 4 key areas. One is behaviors, right? So if your child's got a behavior when they're young, please seek the help to help those behaviors when they're young. Don't let those behaviors become so ingrained that when we see them as an adult, they're really hard to break. The second one is following instructions. Like, for example, if I tell you to do something, I expect you to do it, because that's the core responsibility for going to work. I mean, someone gives you a task, whether you like it or not, you actually need to complete it. The third one is getting on with other people, to be much more socially able to co-work together or work on a team, because that's another work principle, right? They have to work together. And then to work on their communication, because a lot of our experience is a lot of issues and challenges come when an adult is frustrated and they really are unable to communicate what it is that's frustrating them or that's upset them. And then they have a meltdown or they have a reaction. So those are the 4 kind of key areas that we really see that. And then maturity, right? Sometimes they're just not ready yet. They're young, our guys seem to mature a little slower in terms of maturity levels. And so maturity is often, it just takes time and patience.
Well, are there things that parents can do while their child is still in the public school system? Because, transition planning starts in public school. And I would imagine many of your population are eligible till they're 22. So are there things that parents can do to get that in place so the transition to a day program such as yours is easier?
So one of the things I'd like to think about is, as a parent, I'd like our parents to think about, we invest a lot of money to save for our children to go to college. Sharon, I'm sure for your 2 children that you're in college, you've had to really have a very planned savings to get these kids to college, correct?
Right.
Now, children now, some of our adults will go on to college if they can, but for most of them, they will not. And so I'd like our parents to be thinking about investing their college money early in behavior, speech communication, and working with the school to set it up. And, you know, the problem with schools is that they get a very small percentage of that, and they may need a higher percentage. And so to use some money to really invest in breaking those habits and getting those things under control, and help, and even engaging someone to come and help them with independent living skills at home early. Because, you know, even today, my son will do less for me than he will do for someone else. If someone else asks him to do something, by golly, he jumps to attention. If I do, forget it. It's not going to happen. And so there's a lot of things I'd like to flip on and say, gosh, why don't you invest some money early, young, do an intensive help, then it'll pay off long term. With our typically developed children, we save that money because the development and the investment comes when they go to college. With our guys, it's a flip. It's a little different.
Correct. And well, are there circumstances where you maybe work with the schools? So maybe, let's say their transition goal is to post high school is to be in a day program, or do you transition while the kid is still in high school to your program where they're maybe doing, you know, how does that look with some school districts?
Actually, sometimes they go to school in the mornings and they do their core classes in the morning, and then in the afternoon they come to us for a variety of different things depending on what their core, you know, what the objective is for them. And so we've worked with many of the schools to help with young people that are getting ready, that perhaps have a lot of anxiety about the future, and that making that transition plan a lot smoother than just one day here and then tomorrow somewhere else. And then in the summer, not this year, but typically we do allow younger people to come while they're still in school, to come in and experience My Possibilities over the summer. So that way they begin to understand how My Possibilities works. They get to know the teachers, they make friends, and so that transition is a lot easier and smoother as well.
Okay. What typically, kind of, if I have a child that's going to enter My Possibilities, what could I expect that his or her day to look like, or week to look like?
Well, you know, it's very personalized. So from an intake appointment, we sit down and get, it's quite an extensive process. And I think people get a little frustrated with us with our intake process, but we are very deliberate and very intentional, because every adult is so unique and we need to know everything. If we're going to take care of your child properly and safely, we need to know as much information. And often people withhold things, which really doesn't help. So we want you to be open and transparent because we're there to help you. So we'll sit down on intake and take a very detailed plan or idea of what your child is capable of, what they want to do, and then we set out an individual plan for them, and almost like another IEP for school, but this one is for long-term goals. And so a family can set, well, my son just needs to do general classes, or my child needs to be on the work track, or my child needs to be in the art, and then we can tailor make all the subjects. And then when the course curriculum comes out, when they sit with their advisor, the advisor will tell them, point them in the right direction for the classes that they really want to focus on.
And so they may go every day, they may go partial days, or that's, I would assume that's all very individual.
It's all individual, because like I said, some people are working, some people, their stamina doesn't allow them to be in the building for 5 days. It just depends. It's so unique.
Okay. And one of the things I went to, I think it was a Plano Chamber of Commerce event at My Possibilities, and your clients had, the students there had made all of the hors d'oeuvres. Can you tell us a little bit about the culinary program?
We actually have a full culinary program. Right now, our kitchen is in building number 2, but under normal circumstances, everybody gets their food handler's permit. They learn how to cook and cater, and then they cater for events. And actually, it's a paid job. So if you are on the culinary team, it's paid. So you will cater for an event, and all the food is cooked by the adults, served by the adults, and they get paid for that.
That's really exciting. Now, are there of course limitations, because I am assuming many of these young adults are on Social Security, or receive some sort of
Yes.
disability. So they're limited on what they can make. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. And we work very closely with the families on that. And so to make sure that they don't lose their benefits, we know exactly the break-even point before they start to get hurt with that.
But how important is that for them to, because it would, they receive their benefits, but at the same time, can you describe the importance to that individual to have a job and to earn money, or earn appreciation, whatever they're earning, what impact that has on their life?
I'll share you, let me talk about my son, because I think that's the easiest one. Carl has a little job, and it's so important to him. I'm telling you, he's up. When it's the days that he has to go to work, he's up early, he's dressed, he's ready, he wants to go. And during the COVID shutdown, when things were shut down, the thing that he missed most was his job. But, his manager was so sweet to call him once a week and just talk with him about that. But honestly, that sense of pride, that confidence that he can go to work and, he gets dressed to go to work just like we do. It's such a good balance for him. So he's got for example, he's got health and wellness because he's got a little tummy now. And, he's got this job, and then he's very musical, likes to sing. So actually his world, what he's doing is a fully enriched life with all the things that are important to him, and my son isn't very high functioning. It's taken him, a number of years to get to this point, but we have been working on getting him to this independent point. His little boss wrote him this gorgeous little letter just recently when he came back to work. And so I was so pleased for him, just about, ever meet someone who brings an instant smile to your face the first time you meet them, and you can just feel the positive energy permeate the room. And he just went on to talk about, it's not just the impact that the adult is having, the job is having on the adult, it's also the impact that these adults are having in the workplace, and just how much they value him and how much they love him and just how much they enjoy having him there. So it was such a blessing to get something like that. But I think that's, we all get scared and say, oh my gosh, we can't let them go to work. It's wrong. We do need to let them go to work.
We go to places that employ people with special abilities because that's just what we do. Because it makes a difference on the customer base too. The clients of businesses recognize that and want to actually appreciate employers who do that, and so
support them. And
right.
I mean, this is a hospice organization, and they're just a fantastic organization, but there's a lot of places like that, and people really care about those places because they care about the people.
Right. It says a lot about the employer or the organizations care about other people. So now you've talked a little bit about my understanding, you said something about health and wellness, but you have several different components of My Possibilities that we, my understanding, you have the DayHab, or the Dayhabilitation Program, and can you just kind of break down the different components of My Possibilities? And
so you've got your core classes, which is the day programming. So, and that's where you're attending, you choose your classes and you go to your classes. So that's just the general when you come in. But there's a lot of options for you to do. So the art, music, and drama classes. There is now NP Online for those people who can't get to us anymore. So you can do your classes online. There's a health and wellness program. So when you come to My Possibilities, you get engaged in, just for the day-to-day operation, you will be engaged in health and wellness. But if you want to specialize it and work with a coach, or you want to lose weight or eat healthier, then we have this whole health and wellness program. And then if you want to learn to live independently, we can help you with that. We can teach you how to live independently, how to cook, how to clean, how to take care of animals, because many of our adults have service animals. How to book doctor's appointments. We really work on that if that's the adult's goal, is to live independently from mom and dad.
Wow. And then you have a therapy program, is that correct?
Yes. And the reason why we have a therapy department, excuse the pun about being a therapist, but the idea is that they still need therapy. Our guys, some of our guys as adults have never had their behaviors checked when they were young. And we're still working through behavior challenges and obstacles. And the problem is that that's a barrier for them to get employment or to live independently. And so we work very hard on that. And so we've got an ABA therapist, we've got music, we've got speech, because speech and communication is another reason we work on that tremendously, because if we found that most of our behavior challenges are a communication challenge, where the person has a thought in their mind, but they can't express themselves. And then that comes out in the wrong way, or they can't tell someone that someone's bothering them. But the nice part about the therapy program is you don't have to be enrolled at My Possibilities to engage in our therapy services. And we have a music therapist as well.
That's really good. So ABA therapy and regular you have counseling as well. Do you offer counseling for the families?
We do. If the families need it, if there's a parenting issue, we do, yes.
And now we talked a little bit about training programs. I know I've experienced firsthand the culinary program, which I thought was pretty cool. But you also, your students do art. Can you tell us a little bit about the gallery and how that works?
And so for some of we have some very talented artists that's what they want to do for their business. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be artists. So we actually help them. So for the artwork that they produce, we have a gallery arrangement with them. So we take some of their money for art materials and supplies and training. And then we help them get their work into galleries. We help them sell their art, and then they keep the money for that. It's kind of like their job, and help them to become artists. And so we do a lot of that. Our artwork is beautiful. And, our guys, some of our artists are really collected now. One artist in particular, we can't even keep her art on the wall. It sells so quickly.
That's exciting. And then I think there's a new business that you've started. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
One of the things that My Possibilities has really been focused on is sustainability of the organization. And we have acquired a soap business called Soap Hope. And basically Soap Hope is it's a wonderful thing. It's a benefit corporation, which is a for-profit business that supports charities, and in our case, our charity. And for us, it's a wonderful blessing because the business is an online healthy soap and sanitizer business. And so the nice part is the adults do all the work. They can do the online orders, they can do the packaging, they can do the stocking of the shelves. And so the idea is that it employs people with special needs, and it benefits My Possibilities so that we can continue to train. So it's a perfect business for us. And the soap is fantastic. All the fancy soaps and healthy soaps that you see in Central Market or all over, that belongs to, we own that. And so,
oh, really?
Yes, so we distribute it. You can go online and have a look at our products. It's fantastic. And we'll be doing hand sanitizers as well.
So Soap Hope is actually sold in places like Central Market and...
all the products, like the Zum, I don't know if you know some of the lines, like it's not called Soap Hope, but it's called Zum, and there's a whole range of healthy products. And basically, you can buy that through our guys, and then you're empowering a person with special needs to be employed. We're actually moving the location close to where My Possibilities is now. So it'll have a little storefront. You can go and visit the storefront. So we'll be moving them by the fall. We should be ready there. And that employs quite a few adults, actually.
About how many employees do you have?
At this point, it's 10.
Wow.
But when we say employ them, this is not a long-term job. My Possibilities is always about training. So you come in, you're employed, you get paid, but you're only there for 6 months or 7 months until you've really mastered all the tasks. Then we're going to go find you a real job, like in the real world. So that allows more people to go through that training. And experience and learn that skill set. So it doesn't, because there's only, so hypothetically, a soap can only employ 10 people, but we don't want it just to be the same 10. We want to make sure that everybody gets that experience.
Okay. So they have their options of going through Soap Hope and the culinary program and your other, the gallery program.
Yeah, just what their giftedness is.
Now, you said earlier that y'all were in the middle of groundbreaking on Building 2.
Yes.
When COVID hit. What is Building 2?
So Building 2 really is the Launchability Career Services building. So it's very similar to what I was describing to you about Soap Hope. It's an opportunity to come in and have a work pod. So, for example, Home Depot, Target, FedEx office, where you learn different skill sets. You rotate through these different pods. And at the end of that, finding your giftedness, finding what you really want, and then we place you in that kind of job. So that building will be very different from the day program. It'll be very work focused. So you'll be going into the main sort of education side when you start, and then depending on how ready you are, you will accelerate into the work program.
And I think you have also a plan for residential community. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Plans. So we own about 180 acres in Garland. It's the former Eastern Hills Country Club. And we are planning a residential community, building a residential community in this center. But it's different because it won't only be for people with special needs. It'll be for typically developed people, parents, adults with special needs. And they will be able to use their HCS money to live in this community. There will be group homes, and then they will be individually owned homes as well. Maximum 300 homes. 100 homes My Possibilities will own and operate, and 200 will go to the open market for sale. And they will be very reasonably priced, from the $275 to $425 market point, because again, we want to make sure it's affordable for our families.
So will you have services within this community as well? Will you move some of your services there? I didn't know how that worked with HCS homes.
No, with HCS, you can't have them all in the same space. So living will be in one place, but we'll transport to the campus. And it's about 15 minutes away from each other, which is fantastic. So we can separate them. And so you can go to work. So it's a dark paratransit city. So you can either go straight from living at home to work, or we'll transport you to My Possibilities. It's very centrally located from there.
And that's in Garland. Now your campus, I believe it's in Plano. Do you offer transportation for families for their kids who attend your program?
When they're in the program, yes, but not to get there or to go home. Right now, we are working with DART Paratransit to provide services, and then we have a ride share right now, a co-share, a pilot with Toyota from Frisco. So it's a dedicated little bus ride from Frisco to the campus and back, and we have the same from Rowlett to the campus. So we're working on a pilot with them, and if the pilot goes well, then hopefully we'll be able to extend that to other cities.
Wow, that's lots of exciting stuff going on for you. A lot of change.
I'll tell you, we don't sleep at My Possibilities, apparently.
What do I tell my families that they have their child that you said earlier, get the behaviors under control, make sure they're getting communication skills that they need. But I have a family that say has a 12-year-old. Well, first of all, how early do they start planning for this? What age?
I'm telling you, early. Start giving your young child chores, responsibilities, feeding the dog. Again, just developing all these things. Allow them to, learn how to bath, shave, toilet themselves early. You've got to encourage this independence as much as possible. And making sure that they can follow directions and that they are safe, that they can be safe around others. Those are things that I would suggest that you start working on very, very early, because don't let those behaviors become ingrained where they are so difficult to undo.
Right. And I'm assuming that's why you have an ABA therapist on staff. Right.
And the challenge is later on, it's so hard to break. And it's such a sad thing because it's such an obstacle. We see really smart adults that if we could just get that behavior under control, would do very well in the workplace. But we can't send them to the workplace until they're safe, because, in the real world, there aren't, people make accommodations for people, but not those kind of accommodations, not behavior challenges, meltdowns, disrespectful to adults. That kind of stuff doesn't fly in the workplace.
Well, and I'm assuming, with safety, you're talking about, if your child elopes, or, we all have meltdowns, right? My family would tell you, I have meltdowns sometimes, but when it's a communication issue that is at the core of that. So I can see where, get those addressed.
Yeah, even if, everybody has a meltdown, right? But to that recovery from a meltdown? Like what, so that they know how to behave and how to kind of just calm themselves down, right? They can feel it coming on, or they know it's coming. They can remove themselves from that situation, which is kind of what we do. But that training starts very early. And I know it sounds complicated when they're little, but just managing those emotions, because, as much as we want to protect them, when we're gone, that world is not loving and kind and caring. And that's always a nightmare for me, is to make sure that if something happened to me, that my son would be able to survive, and be taken, over, that he will be able to do and have a productive life if I was not there.
Right. I think that's every parent's nightmare, and I can't imagine having a child with a disability that's got to weigh heavily.
Very much.
Right. What types of goals during high school then? Because a lot of our kids are in school till they're 22, but they maybe are finishing their credits up around their senior year or 18, and then they're going to stay some additional years in a school's transition program. But what types of goals do you think are really important in their IEPs to prepare them to transition to somewhere, like, if it's not My Possibilities, to another day program?
Yeah, definitely responsibility, right? And so making sure that their responsibility, that there's things that they could do in school or at home, whether that's chores within the school building or chores at home. Communication, that's a huge one. There can be communication goals in the IEP. And then even just work goals. I mean, there's a lot of off-campus work that they can do. There's a lot of things. Try and get them into that track. Because the challenge is that 18 to 22, often adults are bored, and you need to be very careful about that boredom and see if you can't get them on different job rotations if they're ready to be able to do that. And if they're not ready yet, for example, if they're in a self-contained classroom with a one-on-one person, when you get out into the real world, that self-contained classroom with a one-on-one assistant isn't going to happen. And so really start working on trying to address less one-on-one and less contained, and making sure that they are socially appropriate, that they can be with other people, because otherwise the opportunities are going to be so minimal for their adults. And It's going to cost a lot of money, because in the system it's paid for, but often it's not paid. Mom and dad have to pay for that.
Right. And it affects even the type of group home, my understanding, that they may become eligible for if those things aren't addressed.
Yeah, personal hygiene, making sure that they can groom themselves, go to the restroom by themselves, shower by themselves. Those are things that really need to be worked on at home from a very early age, whether it's an electric shaver or it's something like that can really help out, wash your own hair, be able to do that kind of stuff is really, really important.
Right.
And then just manners, how to speak to people, making sure that they respect adults, because if they don't respect us as parents, and they can hit us and they can shout at us and they can be disrespectful to us, they will make that transition to a manager or to someone else. Right. So making sure that we have very firm boundaries about how our children will teach us or how they treat us, because they will treat other adults in the same way if they become accustomed to it.
How long typically do your clients stay in the My Possibilities program, or is it just open-ended?
It's open-ended, but our ideal client comes in 5 days a week and works through the classes, gets employed, and then cuts down to just coming back for extra classes, health and wellness, art, music, and comes on the days that person is not working. That's our goal, that everybody would be able to have a little job, be able to do the things that they love, and be able to socially connect. So that's what we work on all the time. And then, of course, if they're working towards independence for home living, then we have Carl's Cabin over weekends where these adults can go and learn how to live independently while mom and dad have a weekend away. Because, 24-hour care with our families can really wear us down.
Right. And so you actually have a home or a place that they can go to work on that independent living?
Yes, and they learn how to co-share with another person, maximum 8 people at a time. And it really does allow mom and dad to go away for a nice long weekend as well.
That's great. And then what you said, the social the social interaction, you know, they need those relationships. And so this, I would imagine, your place is a place where relationships are built and hopefully sustained.
Yes, and you know, the other thing which we don't talk about, which you just reminded me, is another aspect that we need to talk about. You know, for some reason, we don't talk about sexuality with our adults with special needs. We just don't even go there.
We pretend it doesn't exist, but you know what? We need to talk about it.
We do, because, you know, their biological clock works just fine. And so they start having all these thoughts and feelings, and, you know, we have to talk to them about that and teach them, you know, what is socially acceptable in a, you know, public space, what you can do at home in your room and what you can do out there. You'll be amazed at how that becomes a problem. So we do teach healthy relationships at My Possibilities. We do teach not sexuality, but we do teach about boundaries and what's acceptable and what's not. But start talking early to your children about sexuality, especially those.
Right. And sexuality education altogether is very important, especially as kids are in middle school and high school, for kids with disabilities. I mean, they're
so vulnerable to inappropriate things. And so, you know, teaching them what is an appropriate touch and what's not, and what can be done and what cannot be done. It's such a vulnerable and such a sensitive subject, but it's really important.
Right, right. Now, you also do parenting facilitation
Yes.
for families who have children with disabilities. Unfortunately, within the disability community, that's a stress and a strain on marriage, and so there's a higher incidence of divorce. But how do you work with families? What are the challenges to household families when you have children with disabilities, and how do you address it?
Well, you know, I think our guys in particular, we have to admit that our children that with disabilities will be our lifelong care, right? For
Right.
every breath that we take, we will take some sort of responsibility and oversight for our children. And it's not just responsibility, it's financial responsibility. So co-parenting with your ex-spouse is going to be vital, because communication about the child's needs, about the child's goals, you know, so for example, one parent may see the child living in a group home and the other one says, over my dead body. I mean, these are things that one has to begin thinking about and saying, let's work towards that. What money is it going to cost? What money do we need to put aside? Because it is a long journey. And I do work with families on that, because, you know, there's trust planning, there's will planning, there's all kinds of stuff, because these children will always be vulnerable, and they need to be protected. And it's going to require a lot of communication from the parents. And, you know, when you're in a high conflict divorce and you can't agree on stuff, the only person who suffers is your child.
Right. That's the same universally, no matter if, you know, the children have disabilities or not. But especially, I would imagine consistency. It's key for everybody, but it's especially key.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. This morning, my planets didn't align, and so my husband ended up taking Kyle to work. It was a change of schedule for him. He did not enjoy that at all, because today was my day, and it was not my husband's day. And so he got himself all flustered by that. And so that consistency of saying, these are the rules at my house, and these are the rules at your house, that doesn't work with these kiddos. They've got to have the same plan to do that. So to work on a parenting plan that says, when the child comes to me, I will do the following, and you will do the following, and, you know, let's agree on that. The same as medication. You know, some parents says medication is essential, another one says it's not. But if the doctor has prescribed medication, then both parents need to say, I'm committed to providing that. Because what we see at My Possibilities is when they are off kilter like that, on Monday the child has a meltdown, it has all kinds of stuff, because the medication hasn't been consistent, or the parenting hasn't been consistent, and then the child is just overwhelmed. And so it's not fair to the person or the adult or the child, actually, when the parents aren't able to get on the same plane. So the idea of communication and a consistent plan, and agreeing to disagree. If you don't agree with the plan, you can't sabotage the plan. You have to implement the plan.
Right. Right.
You can't sabotage, because you're sabotaging.
And different parents sometimes have different perceptions of their
Correct.
child's disabilities, and
Capabilities.
that can be very damaging, because then you don't have the same approach, and you know, it's no time to persist in denial. I would imagine.
It is, you know, and sometimes it's grief and it's loss and it's anger, and sometimes it can really get misplaced, you know, but I think working through some of those things with an individual counselor would be really important to be able to work on that and work on parenting. It is tough, but we owe it to our children. They don't have the communication, and they're going to rely on us as parents to be able to communicate with each other, whether we are not together or not. And it's a tough road for them when things don't go well.
Right, right. Now, you talked about grief. One of the most profound moments I think I've ever had as an attorney was representing somebody in a guardianship, and hearing the order being read, you know, about the rights that were being removed from that young adult. And the young adult absolutely needed a guardian. It was necessary. I'd never had that happen before. And I caught a glimpse out of the corner of my eye, my client crying. And the client said, this is like back in the hospital when I gave birth. And it's that grief. Do you find that, you know, because then you've got the grief cycle that happens when they start school, and school turns out to be a little different than maybe what was expected. How does that show up with families when they first bring their child into a place like My Possibilities?
You know, we see it a lot. I mean, first of all, it's an acknowledgement that your child isn't going to go to a typical college, right? And it can be heartbreaking. And then for, you know, so it's a different journey. I still have it. You know, my son is 33 now, and my friend's son is the same age as mine. And he, you know, just recently got married and became a dad and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, it really just hurt my heart at that point, not just because my son wouldn't be able to do that, and I wanted that for him. So that's so profound, and it often comes up. But what I have found too is that in our grief, or in our, we become sort of overprotective. We put a box around our children, and the challenge that we have with that is that that's so wrong, because the box that we put around them will actually define them.
Right.
If we say they can't do X, guess what? They will not be able to do X. But if we open that box and say, you know, the possibilities are endless, let's work towards that, let's keep it open-ended. I have been amazed. I have seen people speak. I have seen people walk. I have seen people go to work that I never thought would go to work. And so if we can just remain open and not do this sort of overprotection, you'll be amazed what these adults can do. They're much more capable than what we give them credit for. I'll give you an example. We are going to be appointing, we call our adults that attend My Possibilities hipsters, hugely important people. And we're going to be appointing a hipster to the main My Possibilities board and to our foundation board. And so we have about 3 candidates which I've been dealing with. And I'm telling you, I've been so amazed. So the first thing when I said is, hey, I'm thinking about you, there was just this silence, and I thought, oh my gosh, what does that mean? And then he comes to me and says, thank you so much for that honor. You will not be sorry. And then he sent me his resume, and then he sent me a letter about why he would be a good candidate for the board. Oh my gosh, I'm talking about little clown eyes. But, you know, I had never seen him in that light, and shame on me for that. But he showed me that he was so much more capable. But because I gave him an opportunity, he could rise to the occasion, right? And so I think that's and that was, even for me, I was like, wow, you know what, this is wrong. I had this kind of expectation, but this young man is way beyond that.
Yeah. So hence the name My Possibilities, right?
That's where it came from. Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah. And so for those of us, I mean, there are several of us on here that are special education attorneys or advocates that work in the field. If we have clients that we are anticipating we need to prepare for your services, maybe they're still in high school, but we need to move them towards that route. How do we get in touch with you, and how can you help?
So you can reach me at anywhere at charmaine@mptx.org or through my cell phone, and then I'll be happy to connect you in either way, whether that's to get connected at My Possibilities through the intake process or to connect you to other services. For example, there's lots of attorneys who do wills and estate planning and all that kind of stuff. So I can definitely, point you in the right direction.
Okay. And then you previously said that there was a summer program that sometimes while kids are still in high school, they could maybe participate in your summer program to see what it's like.
Yeah, over the age of 18, we call them hopsters. So it's hipster orientation program. We do it in the summer. We're not doing it this year, of course, because we're not open. Well, we are open, but we're just open for our current students. But typically under normal circumstances, we allow spring break, we allow December holidays and summer, where 18-years come in and they experience the transition program. And then we can also help then say, gosh, what we do is say this young person, when they're ready, will be great fit for My Possibilities. Oh my goodness, what we saw was XYZ. You really need to work on that. So I would really encourage people whose children are 18 to do that so that you have a better idea of what exactly you need to be working on as well to get them prepared before they age out of the system.
And work on it while they're still in the public school system until they're 22.
While it's still, they're still young enough and they are able to work through that stuff.
Okay. And if we wanted to support My Possibilities, like we're one of either the gallery or the soap, I'm kind of interested in the soap option. So how do we access that? Is it soaphope.org?
You just go to the main website. It's mypossibilities.org and then soaphope.org. Actually, it's soaphope.com. Sorry, soaphope.com. And you can go on to the website and you can have a look at everything that we do. And then you can go through and shop through that system. It'll come packaged to your door, or you can come to the main My Possibilities and actually pick it up at the door.
And the proceeds go directly to supporting the young adults that are involved in the business.
Yeah, and employment, and then it also just goes right back into all the training and everything that we need.
Okay. Well, it sounds like there are exciting things in store as soon as we open back up as an economy and as a state, so y'all can break ground on your new program. It's exciting. It'll be really exciting to see what's ahead. So I would encourage everybody to go to the My Possibilities website, utilize Charmaine and her staff as a resource, especially if you have children, or for my attorney friends, if you have clients that are in that age, that in between where they've finished their high school credits, they're still in a transition program, but I'm amazed at how many times I see transition plans and a day program is in the plan, but there is nothing in the IEP that's getting them prepared for that. So we actually have the ability to do some things to help kids transition from one place to the next, because
and we also have regular tours for people who want to come and visit. Obviously not at the moment, but we have them bi-monthly, and basically families come and tour us all the time. We do a full presentation on everything that we offer, and so that's an easy one for families if they want to. We do it for schools, we do it for school districts and for our families as well.
Okay. And I know that you have a pretty good cooperative relationship with several of the school districts in the metro. So
yes, we work very well with them.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Charmaine. I appreciate your taking time to talk to us today. And for those of you that are watching online, if you want to see again, we'll send it out. And we will also have a Facebook watch party for this. So stay tuned and watch. And glad you could join us today, or that you're watching us later. Thank you, Charmaine.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sharon. Bye-bye.